Hello and welcome. I'm Juno, intimacy provider and educator, here to share some of my musings with you from my experiences of being in the industry. My mission is to support those who are new to doing this work and those who are curious about joining. I'm not going to lie, this is my maybe fifth take at recording this, and a few times I have fully edited this, and now I'm restarting yet again because I just really want this to come across well, and I'm putting it out to the universe that this is the last one. This is the version that you are watching. Being an intimacy provider, pros and cons. I'm really passionate about what I do. I genuinely love it. I love what my daily life looks like because of doing this work. I love all of the opportunities that it has given me, all that it has taught me, and all the ways in which it has pushed me to grow. It is a far more caring and supportive community than I had wrongly assumed, and I am so grateful to be a part of it. When I first entered the industry at age 22, I didn't expect to be doing it for even a year, let alone almost 8 years later at age 30. When I entered the industry, I was a student, so I was joining partially for the need for money, but also for this desire for excitement. To me, the industry was thrilling. I didn't know anybody else doing this work, so I dove into it largely alone, and I thought it would end in not too long, for sure by the time I graduated from school and began my real job. Whether or not newbie Juno would have expected this, since starting in the industry, I have graduated from 2 degrees, I have started and left my real job, and now I've been working in the industry exclusively for almost 3 years. It has been an adventure, and I would love to share it with you. Why am I an intimacy provider? I am not working in the field that my 2 university degrees set me up for. Let's be real, this is not what I thought my 2 expensive pieces of paper would lead me to be doing. For me, being an intimacy provider started more of a side hustle than as a career choice, something that did support my income, helped me get through school, and provided some excitement on the side of my normal life. I couldn't say I was an intimacy provider, right? Nearly 3 years ago, I was working in my career job that university had set me up for, and to be honest, I was hating my life. I didn't like the work that I was doing, and while there were other things going on in my personal life that compounded to make it just a generally shitty time, what I did for work, was something that I had control of. I had re-entered the industry a short period before this time. I was living in Toronto, I had a lot of student debt, and so it seemed like a good idea to just say a little hello to my retired alter ego, just for a little bit to get myself financially back on track. I have entered this industry, retired, re-entered quite a handful of times. Why does this industry keep pulling me back? The pros and cons of being an intimacy provider. My experience. I would like to begin this discussion by acknowledging my positionality in the world, including in this work. I am a white, cisgender woman with education. While, yes, I do experience some stigmatization because of the work that I do, I'm able to better navigate this discrimination because of these privileges that I've been afforded. Racism continues to be an issue that plagues our society, including the intimacy industry. It is not exempt from this. It's really far from that. People who experience marginalization because of their skin color, this is furthered in the industry compared to those of us who experience white privilege. This industry, like the rest of mainstream society, affords more safety and profit to those of us with light skin. I have heard of clients asking providers to do role play scenes that are rooted in racism. I know that should a client harm me, while yeah, I might face some discrimination being an intimacy provider, I am much more likely to be able to seek justice and be believed as a legitimate survivor because of my white skin. I am better positioned to receive safety, dignity, and respect in the work that I do, as well as profit. This is similar for gender. Like the rest of our culture, the intimacy industry supports cis normativity. Providers who are transgender, whether women, men, or non-binary, are at greater risk of experiencing stigmatization than those of us, such as myself, who are cisgender. I know non-binary providers who feel the need to label themselves as women in their working identity because this affords them not only more abilities to make money, but also more safety. I've heard clients question the legitimacy of trans women's identity and therefore question the legitimacy of the services that they provide. This is far from an exhaustive list, and if you don't feel like your experience has been spoken to in identifying these two categories, please know that I do acknowledge there are a plethora of ways in which we experience the world, whether that is privilege or potential discrimination. So I really want to acknowledge that I'm going to be sharing some pros and cons based on my experiences with the personal identities that I hold and the privileges that these afford. They are unique to me. Some might relate to you, some might differ from you. And I really hope that you can glean some positive perspectives on the industry while also being able to critically think about how this may differ for you. That being said, acknowledging that we are all unique and our experiences will all be unique within this industry, within our lives in general. Without further ado, I would like to start with my reasons that I love being an intimacy provider. 6 reasons I love the industry. Number 1, money. Financial freedom, yes, that is a big one. I started working in this industry when I was a student and I needed money to pay for tuition, rent, all that sort of stuff. And once I began working full-time in the industry, I did have some student debt left, and I paid that off way faster than what it was projected to take if I was only making the monthly minimum payments, which were all that I could afford working my career job that school had led me up to. And I took a few weeks holiday that year. While they say, and I do believe, money can't buy you happiness, let me tell you, the weight of that debt off my shoulders sure felt good. But honestly, it is more than just money for me. Yeah, money is definitely a big part of it, but there's more. Number 2, independence. The autonomy and freedom that I experience in my work is a really big pull factor for me in staying in this industry. Honestly, I admire people who can sit at a desk all day, working away, being productive. That's super cool. But a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 job, personally, that's not me. There is some accountability, yes. When I have a booking at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, I show up when I said that I'm going to show up. And if I'm having a kind of lazy, unmotivated day, having that set appointment is really helpful to like get my ass in gear and get going. But all the other components involved in being an intimacy provider, I can do that whenever I want. I can do it whenever I am functioning at my highest capacity, whenever my brain wants to do it, whenever I'm working at my best. Personally, I'm a morning kind of gal. Sometimes I'll wake up at 7 a.m. on a Sunday and I'll feel like going to that one cafe that's already open, bringing my laptop, working on my social media, updating my website, responding to emails and text messages. And I really like having that kind of control and flexibility. Sometimes it's a Tuesday at 2 p.m. and it's gorgeous outside and I can't stop looking out my window and I'm not getting anything done because my brain is not in the zone. So I go for a nice long walk and I enjoy that sunshine and I postpone that work that I need to do until later when my brain is in the zone and able to actually effectively get it done, not take 2 hours to respond to one friggin' email. While it does take a fair amount of self-motivation to do this entrepreneurial lifestyle, it really jives with the way that my mind and body work. Being my own boss is how I like it. Number 3, adventure. That need for excitement that drew me into the industry, that's still there. It's evolved, but it's still there. While my confidence and working knowledge have definitely grown from my time doing this work, I'd be lying if I said I didn't still sometimes get some anxious butterflies when seeing a new client. And the financial thrill. I spend a lot of time working unpaid. When I am replying to client texts and emails, fielding all sorts of questions that maybe I will analyze on here one day, I'm not making any money. When I'm spending hours making and editing content, rewriting my ads, editing my website, being engaged on social media, I'm not making money. Sometimes there are slow periods in my work where all this unpaid stuff feels like, what the hell? What am I doing this all for? And then all of a sudden, bam, here's a stack of bills to make up for all the unsolicited dick pics you've had to look at. Thrilling. Number 4, confidence. Obviously, I am getting some sort of validation that people are seeing pictures of me online and then they're booking to see me in person. Yeah, that makes me feel good about myself. I'd be lying if I said it doesn't. It's a confidence boost. But wait, there's more. Aside from when I am touring and I'm seeing consistently new people, when I'm situated in one city for an extended period of time, like mainly I spend a lot of time in Toronto, I do get a lot of regulars. To me, a regular, as the name implies, is somebody who sees me regularly. They enjoy spending time with me, so they book me again and again and again. While my physical appearance may have been what drew them in initially, I know that it's who I am that keeps them coming back for more. While, yes, the physical activity part of being an intimacy provider is a big piece of the work, for many of my clients, we spend a lot of time lying naked in bed, chatting. That's a big component of our visits. So, yes, while my physical appearance and my physical activity skills are a component of it, I know that for a lot of my clients, it's how I make them feel that keeps them coming back for more. And to me, that's a real confidence boost. I will note that going into this industry and finding it a empowering, confidence boosting experience, does require a certain level of confidence coming into it, and that's something I'm going to talk on a little bit more in the con section. But personally, for me, it makes me feel like a fucking confident, badass, sexy, wonderful woman. Number 5, skills development. Okay, not those skills, but yeah, kind of them too. As I said, I love being an independent worker. You never know what the future holds. I'm not saying, the whole never say never, but at this point in my life, I cannot picture myself ever being an employee again. This entrepreneurial life, it works for me. And you know what's really great? It is setting me up with skills that make me able to branch out into different types of self-employed entrepreneurial pursuits in the future, should I want to. I've gained a lot of valuable skills, such as branding, marketing, social media, management, website development, client rapport, financial tracking and budgeting, not to mention all the valuable people skills that help in a lot of different jobs and in our personal lives, such as emotional intuition, boundary setting, and communication. From spending time with a lot of different people in quite vulnerable settings, I've had a lot of practice in active listening, as well as how to empathetically respond to people. All of this practice has better allowed me to be able to pick up on emotions and read people and respond in hopefully effective ways. Both the emotional intuition and the effective communication skills that this work has afforded me come into play in all different situations in my life. I feel like I'm a better friend and family member because of being able to develop these skills. I feel like I could do really well in a caring career, such as nursing or psychotherapy. I even feel like it really benefits my own self-dialogue, allowing me to better analyze my own thoughts and feelings and know how to respond to myself with more empathy. Similarly, I've had many opportunities to practice boundary setting. Before beginning your work as an intimacy provider, it's really important to do some self-reflection on what services you are willing to provide. Essentially, what your boundaries are. Some things I'm very comfortable doing, so they are part of my basic package. Some things I don't hate, but they are more taxing on my body, maybe my emotions, and so I charge extra for them, aka they're part of my more expensive package. Some things make me physically and or emotionally uncomfortable. I don't like doing them. They don't feel good to me. And so they are my restrictions. They are things that I don't do. I don't offer. They're not services I provide, no matter if you offer to charge me more or not. This is my boundary. This is my restriction. And I make sure to reinforce them. I know my boundaries and I don't budge. When I get a new client inquiry, I have a little image made up that has my different services I provide, the different prices, and my restrictions, so they know what I offer and what I do not offer. You may hear this referred to as your menu. I think that's kind of like a weird term to call it. Hey babe, what's your menu? But if you're going to join the industry, it is a good term to know. All my new clients receive this menu before booking me. They know what I provide. They know what my boundaries are. That said, when they arrive for their first booking, I still like to reassert these. I'll do this in a friendly, flirtatious way once we're lying in bed together. I'll first ask, is there anything you like in particular? Anything you really are looking for? Anything you don't like? It's important for me to know their boundaries too and their expectations. And then whether or not they throw this question back at me, I take this time to make sure to reassert this is what I don't like. This is what I don't do. Occasionally, I do have clients who try to push these boundaries a bit, and this industry has allowed me to practice asserting my boundaries and making sure that I stand up for myself. Usually, a simple reminder, oh, don't do that, is enough. Most people respond to that. Sometimes I have to repeat it a couple times or be a bit more firm. While I personally haven't had to kick anybody out during a session for not respecting my boundaries, I have had a few clients that I felt not in danger enough that I need to end the booking, but I do tell them over text afterwards, you didn't make me feel respected, you didn't make me feel good, and so I will not be seeing you again. Most of us are in this industry because it is quite profitable, but I really hope that you can see, or at least hold true to yourself, that money isn't everything. If someone makes you feel like shit, please do not continue to see them. There are so many clients out there, and I really hope that you will stick it through for those good ones and be able to say to the ones who are not treating you right. Number 6, connection. I really adore vulnerable, deep conversations. It is one of my favorite things. And though it's not like every client and I get right in there, with many, we do. There's something extra vulnerable about lying naked beside someone. You're physically exposed, so we might as well just let the emotional come out too. Most of my clients are men, and with the way that men are raised in our society, often taught that they're not allowed to talk about their feelings or share their emotions or vulnerably express themselves, I just feel like this safe, vulnerable, intimate space that we providers create allows men to often come out of their shells in a way that they might not often do in a lot of other aspects of their life. They might not have many, if any, people who they can talk to in the way that many of my clients talk to me. We can seem like a safe, accessible option for people, and I'm really grateful to be afforded this position. And with many of my clients, I gain from them too. Just as I bring value to their lives, they bring value to my life. But it is not just clients who I love to connect with. Intimacy providers are such a diverse community with so many unique, wonderful souls who I am so grateful to be able to connect with and to say that I have many friends. It's a bit of a different profession than many of our civvy friends, people outside of the industry, can relate to. With the unique challenges that this industry brings, including social stigmatization by larger society, it can be really isolating to work alone. When I found the community within this industry, I was so happy to just feel normal. Generally, I love being the unique, slightly weird person that I am. If someone were to call me vanilla, while I love vanilla ice cream, I don't think I would be too impressed to be vanilla myself. That said, sometimes I just want my job to feel like a job. I just want people to treat it like that's your work, that's what you do. Sure. When I talk to civvy people, sometimes my work feels almost fetishized or like there's shock value in it. Like, whoa, that happens at your job. Honestly, sometimes that's fun. Sometimes I'm like, that's my work. Yeah, I know, it's unique. But sometimes I just want it to be a normal job. I want to talk to people who are like, ugh, yeah, I know, I hate when that happens. Or, yeah, that's one of my favorite parts too. Because that's our job. It's just a job. After 5 years of working alone in the industry, when I started to build community and meet other intimacy providers, I really loved how just normal I felt, how I could relate to people, and there was less shock value and just more solidarity. That solidarity felt so good. It still feels so good. I do this work because I love it. I really genuinely do. And if you're here because you're curious about joining, I also want you to know that I really value knowledge and informed choice. So while I have presented these things to you that I love about being an intimacy provider, I also want to share with you some of the things I don't like about it, or some of the things that I can see being hard for some people. Because whether or not you end up doing this work, I want you to do it because it is a good choice for you. So those were my pros. Now, what about the cons? 5 challenges of being in the industry. Number 1, entrepreneurial financial instability. But Juno, you said your pros number 1 was money. Now you're telling me that's a con? Financial instability or uncertainty is not unique to being an intimacy provider. It is part of being a self-employed entrepreneur. Some weeks are great. I make way more money than I had budgeted for, and because of that, I get to treat myself to something fun. Or, like put it into savings. Some weeks are not so great. While there are things I can do to up my hustle and try to get more bookings, like posting more ads, hustling my social media a bit more, maybe texting some of my clients a sexy picture and being like, hey, don't forget about me. Ultimately, whether or not the bookings come is largely out of my control. In my personal experience, as well as having talked to many of my colleagues, there are inevitable ebbs and flows in the industry that really tend to go with the calendar, go with the times. January is often slower in my experience. And again, from talking to other people, they experience that too. Whether it's, you spent a lot of money over the holidays and you don't have as much left for January, or winter in Canada is depressing and we go into hibernation and we don't want to socialize. November is often a really great month. And so while it could be tempting to be like, oh, November, so much money, let's go, I do know that January is probably not going to be so great. So let's budget accordingly and plan for January. I love to travel. January is maybe a great time to take off and skip Canadian winter. Whereas November, let's stick around and save for depressing winter. Sorry if you're a winter person. I'm sure there are pros to it. Personally, it's not for me. But there are times that for no apparent reason, things are a little bit slower. I've personally learned to look at my finances over the course of a month. Some weeks are slow, and then the next week is unexpectedly great. But if I focus on the individual days or weeks, it can be quite stressful. If a slow week or a week full of cancellations, therefore a lower income week, is really going to stress you out, entrepreneurial life may not be the best route for you. The hustle can be stressful. For me, the hustle is a constant source of motivation and excitement. For some, it may be a constant source of anxiety. I think it could be really beneficial when deciding whether or not to do this work, especially as your exclusive income source, to think about your relationship to money as well as your tolerance for risk. Maybe you want to make sure you have another job supporting your income in addition to being an intimacy provider for some stability, at least until you've established yourself in the industry and, have a pretty solid understanding of how things go. Number 2, resume gap. Building off of having another job while you work in the industry, this can be helpful not only for financial stability, but also for your resume. Personally, I really picture myself always being self-employed from now on, so my resume is not really too big a concern for me. If you think you might want to be an employee again one day, or you're just not sure if you're ready to commit to entrepreneurial life in the long haul, having another job is probably a good idea. Number 3, physical safety risks. I like a fair amount of excitement in life. I'm a bit of a thrill seeker. So in my pros, I had adventure as a positive thing for me. Adventure could also be a negative for some people. It could be seen as high risk. Again, while I am putting myself in risky positions, doing the work that I do, I want to acknowledge that because of the privileges my social identities afford me, I am at reduced physical risk than what some of my colleagues are afforded. I think it can be helpful for you to picture doing this work. Really visualize it. How would you feel getting all dolled up, looking nice, and going to a stranger's house or hotel alone? Ideally, you're screening your clients first, something I'll talk about next week in safety tips. So you're getting some type of assurance that they're not going to harm you, but ultimately, you don't know. There is risk there. There are all types of people in this big, bodacious world of ours, and while I really hope you only meet the very great ones, this industry is putting you at risk for meeting some of the not so great ones. Yes, there are things you can do to lessen your safety risks, and I hope you will come back for week 2 to learn some safety tips that I've found from working in the industry. But ultimately, you are putting yourself in risky situations when you're doing this work. Number 4, emotional safety risks. Again, for me, I had a pro being confidence. I do think that for some people, it can really go a very different direction in how the industry makes you feel about yourself. I do have many clients who tell me repeatedly in bookings how I'm so insert compliment, and they continue to book me again and again, which shows me that they really admire or enjoy or appreciate who I am, and that makes me feel good. Sometimes they bring me gifts, or they tip me, or they send follow-up texts telling me how meaningful our visit was to them. Those are the ones who make me feel great. You're spending how much money to spend time with little old me? I must be pretty wonderful. And then there are the haters. For me, these people are mainly online. By the time someone sees me in person, I've kind of filtered them out, and generally my in-person ones are really great. But comments on social media and hurtful text messages, they can feel pretty shitty. I get people reaming me out over text because I'm not providing services that they want, or my screening policies are too strict, or I won't send them dirty pictures to prove I'm real, or they're just fucking bored, lonely assholes who want to be mean to someone. It happens. And unsolicited dick pics. Why do you think that sending me a picture of your penis is going to make me want to book you for my professional services? Silly boys. Connecting back to the inevitable ebbs and flows of entrepreneurial life, how is this going to affect you? How come times are slow? Why aren't people booking me? Are you going to see this as a part of the industry, as a part of being an entrepreneur? Or are you going to see this as a hit to your self-worth, that nobody wants to see me, I'm not XYZ enough, and because of that, I'm not making any money? Yes, there can be an element of empowerment to working in this industry, but you do have to come into it with some critical thinking skills, an already developed, really strong sense of who you are and your worth, and knowledge that there are haters on the internet. And no matter how amazing, wonderful, beautiful, awesome you are, there's going to be people who try to take you down. It may not be the best industry for you if you already struggle with your sense of self-worth. I think it can be really valuable to do some self-reflection on who you are right now, where you're at right now, and how this industry might affect you. If there's ways that you can navigate this and set yourself up for success, or if it might maybe be too challenging and not the best move for you, at least at this time. If you don't think that it would be good for you, I do really greatly hope that you can find another way to make money. Number 5, isolation. Surprise, surprise, contradicting myself again. I love being an intimacy provider because of the connections that I receive both from my clients and from my wonderful colleagues. I'm also super grateful to be out to the majority of people in my life, and most of those people, pretty much all of them, are really curious and supportive and still loving towards me despite what I do. I get to talk about what I do a lot. I don't really shut up about it, to be honest. Cue this new educational endeavor. But it wasn't always like that for me, and it might not be like that for you. The social stigmatization involved in being a part of this industry is pervasive. We are misunderstood, judged, and often mistreated because of the way that we choose to make money. Many people don't agree with our choices, they impose their judgments, and they might treat you accordingly. 100% I understand that it may not be safe for everybody to come out to people in their lives about what they do. Physical danger is not the only sort of danger that we as humans can experience. Our social connections, our community, it is so important to our well-being. And so if coming out to the people in your life is going to put you at risk of social isolation, it might not be the best thing to do, and that's a really shit place to be in. If you need to have another job to be your alibi for how you make money, do it. If you need to say you're going on a date when really you're going to see a client, do it. If you forever in this industry need to blur your face and other identifiable features like tattoos because that's how you can maintain your safety, do it. Whatever makes you feel safe, I really hope that you are able to do. But also, please try to make industry friends. I didn't know a single other provider for the first 5 years of doing this work. And then once I got, for me, getting on social media, I was able to just build this beautiful community that most of my friends now work in the industry. I have a couple long-term, younger day friends, but the majority of the people I hang out with are fellow intimacy providers, and they bring so much value to my life. I don't know why. I thought that intimacy providers were going to be this stuck-up, catty, competitive group of people. I was the only exception. It is one of the most supportive and caring groups of unique individuals I have ever had the great fortune to be a part of. And if you guys are watching, I love you. I've hopefully painted a somewhat pretty picture about what this job looks like for me, as well as some of the ways it can be maybe not so great for some people. I'm hoping you have more of an informed vision of what this job looks like, both the goods and the bads. These are my thoughts from my experiences with my identities that I hold. It is definitely not an exhaustive list, and it is definitely not the same for each individual person. A suggestion that I would like to add if you're considering joining the industry is to remain anonymous for at least the first while. For the first nearly 6 years that I did this work, I blurred my face and all my tattoos. I was pretty hard to identify who I was. If you knew me in my personal life, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that that's me. I didn't want to be discovered, and that is very valid. Once you're out online, it is there forever. You will forever be known as an intimacy provider or someone who's done it. There is no going back, and there is very prevalent social stigmatization around this work and the people who do it. So until you are very confident that you want this identity to be part of you forever, please, 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 please just think it through. I would love for everybody to be out and proud and loud, and talk about the industry, talk about their work, and destigmatize it, break down the realities, let's normalize it and make it just a job. If that's safe for you, if you're ready for it, if you're prepared to be somebody who is an intimacy provider or someone who's done it potentially forever. Thank you for being here for my first episode of Juno's Musings. If you want to see more of this content, please like, share, subscribe, and particularly share so we can get this to the new and emerging providers who I'm hoping might benefit from hearing this stuff. This industry can be great, and this greatness is best achieved when we support one another to achieve it. If you would like a more concise, less rambly version of this information shared today, you can check out my blog post on my website, linked in the show notes below. Whether you're new to the intimacy industry or curious about joining, I hope you found a couple useful nuggets to support you in your journey.